Welcome back to episode 95 of Wildly Adequate, a show about anything, everything, and usually nothing. Yes, that's right. We're still alive. I, as always, am one half of your host and crew, Mr. Matthew Urso. And joining me again, Matman and Patman reunite. Patrick, how are you, sir? Patrick, for the audio listeners out there, Patrick just gave a surfer, I don't even know what you would call this, a pinky and a thumb sticking out and wiggling it. A little surfer look. If you like the show, please like, share, subscribe, comment, check us out, do all the things, hit the doodads. You know what's up. You know how YouTube works. And if you don't, and this is the first thing you've stumbled across, God help you. How's Patrick doing today?
I'm doing all right. Did you see the Fantastic Four trailer by
I
any chance?
did. Okay, we can immediately jump into this. Did you see it?
I I did see it. Yeah, I did see it. Yeah. I saw
And
it. It looks interesting. I like the costumes. I like
mhm,
the costumes are pretty cool. The Thing just has like a. I like that it's the guy from The Bear. I
yes.
like that the Thing is the guy from The Bear. He's an actor that's kind of grown on me.
hmm
He's really good in The Bear. But it's just, is it not weird? The CGI of The Thing, is it kind of weird to you, or is it just me?
I love it. I don't know about the CGI so much, but the actual look, like, because the original thing from the OG Fantastic Four movies, like the early 2000 ones, where it's just a guy in a suit, looks
Yeah.
fine. Like, even still, I think the kind of like practical suit kind of holds up. Like, I think he looks fine. The CG one in the stupid 2010s one, the horrible one, never looked right to me. I really like
It was really
this like
round.
comic accurate, like round head, like big heavy brow hanging
Mm-hmm.
over his face. Like it just looks, even the shot of him in the trailer where he's in the like iconic thing look of like
That's
his
what it was to
civilian
me,
look
yeah.
where he's in like the overcoat and the like hat.
Yeah.
Good shit.
Yeah. That's what it was to me. I think it's the brow. You're saying that's comic accurate, the brow?
Yes. And it's very
Okay.
there's a specific artist, the iconic Alex Ross, who this is a drawing he did of the thing where he
Okay.
went with that like old school heavy brow kind of look. And so that then seeing it translated
Yeah.
into the movie, like I personally really like the look of it. And I think I was saying this to my buddy Cam earlier today that I don't know what it is, but my favorite thing, pun intended, in the trailer is the scene of him and Herbie, the little fucking robot, when he like tries the sauce or whatever the fuck that he makes. The 2 second clip of him just like clapping and like, all right, like that's good shit. That's my favorite thing in the whole trailer. And I don't know. Like it's a
Huh.
combination of things. It's like it's the design, it's the Eben Moss. I wanted to say Baccarat, but that's the fucking casino game. But whatever the fuck his last name
Guy's
is,
got gambling on the mind.
fucking cousin Richie from The Bear. His like voice and performance to me is immediately like, yeah, that's fucking New York, like kind of a grouch, whatever, Ben Grimm. And the
Mm.
clapping sign, it makes sense, obviously, that like it wouldn't sound like
Yeah.
skin on skin, but I don't know
Hmm.
why it's so obvious, but just the like sound effect of him clapping, like the dum 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 of like the rocks hitting. I don't know what it is. It's so specific and stupid, but I just love that 2 second clip of him like clapping and being like, fucking, yeah, Herbie, like you crushed that shit. I don't know what it is, but it was just so like neat to me.
Hmm. You're a nerd.
Yeah, it is very specific and nerdy.
Yeah, I never thought I'd see Pedro Pascal in the role, to be honest with you. I know they confirmed it like ages ago, right? But yeah, it's just kind of surreal to finally see. And they're doing. Did you see Galactus at the end of the
Yes,
trailer?
and that's the thing too, where like you get this shot of him where it's just his like shadow over New York, and then that last shot where it's just the back of his head, and it's like finally
Why
we're
is he
gonna
so
get
small?
like people keep saying that. I think, and I mean even the comics have done this where like he can scale himself to like be big enough to eat a planet or like small enough that he can sort of come down and like
But
see what's up.
you've never seen him man-sized though. Why does he never go down to like be eye to eye with somebody?
I just don't think he needs to or has to, I guess. But like
Oh.
seeing the back of his head and like the big purple thing with the like things on the side of his head sticking out, I'm like, finally, we're gonna get not a
Uh,
dust cloud like we got in the Silver Surfer one.
yeah, a bit of comic knowledge here,
Mm.
which I didn't know. I was informed that Galactus appears differently to different civilizations. So to humans, he looks like this guy in a purple suit, but apparently to other alien races, he looks different.
I did not know that, but that could very well
Yeah.
be true. That wouldn't surprise me. The one thing, well, there's two things in the trailer we didn't see. You see everybody's powers except Reed. Like you never get a
Mm-hmm.
shot of him stretching, which I think is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, with the Galactus stuff, I'm like, show me Silver Surfer. Like I just want to see. I know it's not Norrin. It's like his wife, and everybody's like, it's woke because it's Lady Silver Surfer. But it's like, no, it's his wife as the Silver Surfer, which
Yeah.
I don't like. Not
So,
because it's a woman. I would have rather what people are complaining about of like a gender bent Norrin Rad and call it Nora Rad or whatever, because I just like him specifically so much. So when they like announce the casting and whatever, and they're like, oh, it's Shala Bal, like Norrin's wife is the
but why
Silver
not just
Surfer.
why not just do the Silver Surfer?
I think you should have just done Norrin. I wouldn't, not to delve into the weeds too much, but I would venture a guess that there might be something where it's like, oh, we should make it like a lady or whatever. Like that wouldn't surprise me if
But
that were true.
why? Like what's the proclivity of doing that?
I don't
I
know,
just
but
want to see Silver Surfer. Like this
yeah,
is
I don't know. Like I guess you could have an interesting take, it being his wife and
hmm
not him. Like what's the backstory there? The other
Yeah.
thing is that what gives me some amount of hope, although I imagine maybe this will get carried over too, but the idea with this Fantastic Four, seemingly by all accounts, is that it's not the main universe. Like it's
Okay.
not the MCU proper that they exist in, because it doesn't make
Mm.
any fucking sense that they're in like this idealized 1960s that looks like the Jetsons, where it's like the past, but it looks like the future or whatever.
hmm
Well, the Jetsons was set in the future, but you know
The
what I mean. It
future.
looks like it's got that retro futurism.
Yeah.
Um, so the theory is that it's in another universe, and that somehow, some way, the Fantastic Four will probably get brought into the main
Who?
universe.
Be completely honest with me. Who is keeping track of the main universe at this point? Does anyone actually care about the main universe at this point?
I think people will care once the two Avengers movies come, or like other shit that people care about, like when they finally get around to doing another Spider-Man. But like the new Captain America, the Thunderbolts movie, like will people care about those? I'm interested at the very least. I'm not like over the moon excited like I am for Fantastic Four, but I'm interested in the very
Yeah,
least to
but
see.
as a comic book fan, have you been keeping up with the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I mean, I've watched the movies. I'm definitely behind on a couple of the shows at this point. Like, I never watched
hmm
Secret Invasion, mostly because everybody said it's the worst thing they've ever done. And I haven't gotten around to the Agatha show yet. But if I'm being completely honest, part of those is also like Secret Invasion. That storyline, I've never read it, but the idea of it in the comic is way cooler to me than like what the show was trying to do with it. And Agatha
hmm
is like, oh, I liked her in WandaVision, but like I didn't really need a show about her.
Yeah.
Like, so to me, it's also been easier to kind of put those on the back burner because I don't like, it's not something I would consider a little more like consequential or like a character or something that I'm like
Yeah.
really into.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is if someone asked you to explain the current state of the universe and where all the characters are at, you would be able to do that.
I mean, to an extent, yeah, I think so.
What do you mean by to an extent? I just need a yes or no.
Like, it
That's all.
depends. Yes, I think by and large, because we
Okay.
kind of know where most people are post like Endgame and shit.
Okay. Okay.
Like, we know what
Okay.
Spider-Man's up to. We know what Doctor Strange. Like, it's not what they're up to. It's more just like the last time we saw them.
hmm
So it's like
hmm
Spider-Man's in New York and nobody knows who Peter is. Shang-Chi's doing his thing. We're about to see Sam Wilson as Captain America. Fucking Doctor Strange ran off with Charlize Theron in the post-credit scene of Doctor Strange 2 to go do some whatever, you know,
Man, I'm surprised you're keeping it straight, dude.
multiverse
I'm
shit.
very
So it's like
surprised.
it's because I lead a sad, pathetic life, and my brain somehow has the storage space for
The
all this.
time, space, and energy
Yeah, the
too.
time, space, and energy to dedicate to all this fucking nonsense. But anyway, so for Fantastic Four, I think yeah that the idea is that they're just gonna try and integrate them into the main universe. People have different theories about how they would do it. The one I kind of like is the idea that like they lose in this movie and that like Galactus wins and like fucks up the Earth and they kind of like abandon their universe as like a we lost kind of thing and they wind up like in the main one and then it's like they're just here and maybe like the
They're in the
main
main one.
universe
They have
is
to see a therapist because they have PTSD.
sure. But I also think there's some credence to the idea that maybe this movie doesn't end with them coming over yet and they save that for like the two Avengers movies when they get to like the big multiverse, like all the shit colliding kind of thing. I could
I'm
see they
telling you,
wait
that movie's
till
gonna
then.
be garbage.
What gives you that impression?
Okay, what gives me that? Okay, my intuition is telling me it's gonna be bad because they've been on a like not a great streak,
Right?
and so combining the fact that they've been not on a great streak with this massive, massive story with all these different timelines or whatever, it's a recipe for disaster.
I think I don't know. My thing is less about it being not great as opposed to like maybe not necessarily set up because it kind of just seems like we're going to get like all these sort of side stories and like some things will have to do with it. Like Spider-Man No Way Home will like touch on the multiverse and Multiverse of Madness will like touch on the multiverse and Fantastic Four may or may not touch on these things, but then it's going to kind of all of a sudden be like an Avengers Doomsday and then right after Secret Wars.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm less worried about the movies themselves like being bad or not good and more that they're just going to kind of come out of nowhere. But I still think I mean, the fact that they got the Russo brothers back after doing Infinity War and Endgame, like to me is like, okay, like you're getting the right people creatively and like directing wise back into this. I don't know. I guess it just depends. If like those two Avengers movies just turn into like what a lot of people have been giving the MCU shit about lately, that it's just going to be like cameo fests with like no real substance, I think that would be a problem. Whereas if you could give me like a Deadpool and Wolverine where it's like, oh, there's like an actual good story and fun characters and like compelling shit. And also here's fucking Blade and Elektra and Gambit and Human Torch. It's like, okay, like, yes, it's fan servicey, whatever, but it's like, I can excuse it a little more because it fits with what they're doing. Even No Way Home, which I know you and I disagree on, but even
Well,
that,
I was gonna go to that.
even that, it's like, I know some people's thing with that is like, oh, it's too fan servicey and blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, yeah, like to an extent it is. And I get to an extent what people are saying, but it's like, as long as you can do it without it just to me, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness,
That was
that
their last
was
good
the
movie.
bad example
The bad example
of doing like the multiverse shit. Because to me, No Way Home, it's like bringing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield back.
So wait, we disagree on that too. To me, that was their last good movie. Multiverse of Madness.
I like the movie. I'm just saying, like, the whole like thing of like, oh, the build up and all the trailers of like the fucking Illuminati are gonna be in this, and then it's like seeing Patrick Stewart as Professor X in the fucking floating yellow chair. Like that's amazing. Seeing John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic was all anybody wanted. Like that's what the internet had been campaigning for years. So it's like that's really cool. Doesn't really serve any purpose in that movie other than being like, hey, it's John Krasinski. Hey, it's Patrick Stewart. Hey, look, it's Peggy Carter as Captain Carter and whatever. And then they all get killed off immediately. There's no point. At least with No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine, it's like you didn't just have Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield show up for like a couple scenes and then dip. Like it's like, no, they're
but you know why that
integral
happened,
characters to the story.
But you know why that happened, especially with John Krasinski, right? Because they already confirmed Pedro Pascal as thing.
Not by that point. No, we hadn't known that yet.
Maybe, okay. If we hadn't known that, part of me thinks that maybe they knew that already, that this wasn't going to be a thing that they were going to give people. So we'll just throw it in this movie, and
To me, it's
that's
just
to the
I
extent
felt
that's
like I
yeah.
like Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness a lot, but I felt like they kind of one of the big marketing hooks on it was like, look who's in the Illuminati. Or I mean, they didn't put Mr. Fantastic in the trailers, but like people confirmed immediately. There was like one voice line and like the shot of like the corner of Xavier's yellow chair, and everybody's like, that's fucking Patrick Stewart as Professor X kind of thing. So it's like I felt like they kind of marketed it on that,
Mm-hmm.
whereas No Way Home leaned into it with like the villains when it's like, oh, here's Doc Ock and like Green Goblin in the trailers and shit, but like keeping the Spider-Man a secret sort of thing. I mean, even though it was kind of an open
I
secret.
mean, come
And
on,
same with Deadpool and Wolverine, where it's
come
like
on.
I think it was like the last Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, like a week before the movie came out, had X-23 in it. And it
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh shit, like they're bringing her back. But like nobody fucking knew about Elektra and Blade and
Yeah, I need
Gambit
to
and
say two
whatever.
things.
Please.
Thing number one, I think Deadpool and Wolverine was an entertaining movie,
Mm.
not a great movie in my opinion. Like it was entertaining. Can those two things be mutually exclusive? I think they can. I think it's an
Well,
entertaining
yeah,
movie.
because that's like some movies that are like good popcorn movies or whatever, but
Yeah,
aren't like
yeah,
good
yeah.
movies in quotes.
So that's what I'll say about Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion, but that's what I'll say. With as much as I've talked down Spider-Man No Way From Home,
Mhm.
it's the only timeline or the only set of movies I actually care about still in the Marvel universe. Because to be honest with you, it genuinely does like it's a decent story and it genuinely ends on a like really shocking cliffhanger of like nobody remembers or what was it again? It was that
Like nobody
everyone's
knows
memory
Peter
was
that
wiped, right?
yeah, like nobody knows
Yeah,
Peter exists, so he goes back
pretty
to just
much.
obscurity, and they end it on
Exactly.
such a
Which
like
is really which is really cool and I want to see how Peter Parker, adjusts in this world and how he goes about his relationships in that world again. So, yeah. So as much as I've, talked shit about it, yeah, that's the only one I care
I
about at
mean,
this
how
point.
can you deny the very end of the movie when he makes his own red and blue suit and he's just swinging through the snow-covered
You can't.
New York? How can you deny
You
that?
can't deny it. You can't deny it.
It's amazing. It's spectacular, you might even say.
What?
It's friendly
What?
neighborhood, you might even
It's
say.
ultimate.
It's ultimate, you might even say. Fucking Ultimate Spider-Man's so good.
Spectacular.
Um,
What other adjectives? I think
I don't
that's
know,
it.
they give him all kinds of adjectives. Speaking of Spider-Man, because now we're on this Marvel and comic book train, have you checked out the new Disney Plus cartoon?
No, no, I haven't. Let me
Your
pop up
Friendly
Disney
Neighborhood
Plus.
Spider-Man is what it's called. It just
Is it
last
like a like? Is it one of those cartoons that are like really like? There's those cartoons that are like drawn for kids. You know what I'm talking about? Like it looks really childlike, but
right.
they're then those animations that are could go either way kind of thing. What does it look like?
This is
How would you
a
describe it?
3D CG show done to like look comic booky, but not in as dynamic or impressive a way as like the Spider-Verse movies. Like it's much more flat, I guess you would say, and like less detail and like definitely not Spider-Verse. Don't think it's Spider-Verse, but it's just like a 3D CG
Okay,
Spider-Man
I'm
cartoon.
signing in right now.
He's signing it. I mean, you could also just Google image and shit.
Your friendly neighborhood. Oh, okay. It looks like a '90s sort of. That's
Almost.
what it looks like to
Perhaps.
me, at least.
So here's the
Yeah.
thing. The first two episodes came out last week, and the next three came out today, and then over the next couple Wednesdays,
Yes.
we're getting more episodes. I
Okay.
watched the first two last week, and then two out of the three today. So I haven't
Yeah.
watched the fifth one, I guess. I gotta say, pleasantly surprised.
Really.
Because
I can't
I
say I
went
like the art.
so here's the thing. I think the animation takes some getting used to because it's not
Mm.
great.
Yeah, it looks like they. It looks like they were like. It looks like Disney was. It looks like Disney went to the animators, said, "Your budget is $100. Make it work."
Because I think it works, and when I'm watching it, it doesn't bug me. But like looking at some still images and shit of it, like it kind
It
of
bugs
rubs
me.
me the
It
wrong
really bugs
way.
me looking at the still images.
But I think you can overcome it. But I have to say,
Mm.
I went into it kind of being like, I'm not crazy about the look of this. Like we're doing high school Peter Spider-Man story like again, which don't get me wrong, love that shit, but it's kind of like because I'm so spoiled now with the Ultimate Spider-Man comic, where he's like a fucking grown-ass dude with a wife and kids, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
so different and so well done. Like I'm kind of yearning, not for necessarily like old Peter, but just like shit that's like that is more different, I guess. Um, and I gotta say, it works for me so far. Like I'm in.
Okay.
I would say check out the first 2 episodes if you're not interested after that. And to anybody else watching out there, then I think you can kind of just chalk it up to not being for you. What's interesting about the show is, well, there's a few things. Number one, originally the show was titled Spider-Man Freshman Year, and the idea of the show was that it was going to be canon to the MCU, and it was going to be like, hey, when we met Tom Holland's Spider-Man in Civil War, he was like, 16 or whatever the fuck he was, and he had already been Spider-Man like for maybe a year or two, let's say, wearing like the shitty homemade suit. What about like
Mm-hmm.
his first year or two? And like, because we never really got Tom Holland's Spider-Man origin. So that was
Yeah.
kind of what the show was originally pitched as like, let's do a canon to the MCU show about Tom Holland's like origin and first year or two or whatever. They've since abandoned that,
I'm glad they did.
which I am glad too. But what's interesting is that it's less of like it's in the MCU and more of a like almost alternate MCU,
Mm-hmm.
or like a what if MCU, kind of like the what if show, because they still reference like Iron Man and Thor and like Captain America. Like the Avengers and all this shit still exists. Even in I guess it would have been the 4th episode that I'd watched, they mention the Sokovia Accords and like the fact that the Avengers had this like brawl at an airport in
Mm-hmm.
Germany and whatever, that obviously Spider-Man in this continuity like wasn't a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting because it's like almost kind of MCU adjacent,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like it's kind of similar to that, but not quite. And it is like Spider-Man doing his own thing. Like he's not being fucking mentored by Tony Stark or any of this stuff. Um, which I think is neat. I like that they went with like it's familiar because it is the MCU, but it's like its own thing. So you're not like pigeonholed into that like continuity. Like it can kind of be its own thing, and you can do things with characters or introduce like elements that you might not have been able to do otherwise with the MCU. So it's neat. The first episode, like, it's not really a spoiler, but the first episode basically like ends with a shot-for-shot remake of the scene in Civil War when we first meet Peter, like when it's the shot of the city and it's like Queens pops up on screen, and that Alt J song Left Hand Freeze playing, like that song kicks in, and it's like a shot-for-shot thing of Peter walking through his apartment and Aunt May being in the living room, and like this Aunt May is very clearly supposed to be like Marissa Tomei's Aunt May because it's like a younger, dark hair, like it's not like an older lady and whatever.
Hell yeah.
And they do like a shot for shot remake of that moment in Civil War when he comes home and Aunt May's talking to Tony, but it's not Tony that she's talking to. It's a different character, which is like cool. And the character that she's talking to and where the show's taking it with that character is like really interesting because it's like, okay, like we're making this more Spider-Man than MCU by even just having this character exist in this, which we haven't gotten in the MCU, which is cool. So yeah, it's good. It's interesting. I didn't think I kind of went into it thinking I would hate it, a la an Ultimate Spider-Man or like that 2017 Spider-Man cartoon, because I haven't really loved a Spider-Man cartoon since a prematurely canceled Spectacular. But then watching this
Mm-hmm.
now, I'm like, oh, this is like good shit. Like they're doing some interesting stuff. I really like that his friends at high school, the only like mainstay, I guess you would say, is Harry, but his other 3 friends are like other Marvel characters. It's not like Gwen or MJ or like Liz or any of these other people, like, or even Flash Thompson. Like, his best friend is this girl named Nico Minoru, who's like, I don't know too much about her, but like kind of an X-Men character and like involved in some of that shit. The girl that Peter has a crush on is this character who, or the girl eventually turns into this character called Wave, who I know nothing about outside of fucking Marvel Snap. And Peter kind of befriends like the star football team player, and it's not Flash, it's Lonnie Lincoln, who becomes Tombstone, like the gang boss guy. So it's like, all right, like we're not doing the same old, like it's Gwen, it's MJ, it's fucking Harry and Flash and like some of these usual suspects. It's like, no, okay, like each of his friends eventually like turns into these other characters. So it's like, that's an interesting take on things too. So it's been more interesting and more well done than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, banging intro.
Bang.
I would even just, if you're not even going to watch the show, anybody out there, check out the intro because it's like really well animated and like super colorful. I almost wish the show looked more like the intro, but the intro is like this hip hop song or whatever, like an original one they created for this opening, obviously, but it samples the 1960s, like the original Spider-Man cartoons theme song, where it's the Spider-Man, Spider. Okay, like it samples that old theme into this like hip hop kind of thing. Good shit.
Mm-hmm.
Delectable.
Okay, so maybe I'll give it a watch. You mentioned Marissa Tomei, and I was just thinking about how George Costanza bungled it in Seinfeld.
Mm-hmm.
Did you catch the Grammys by any chance or no?
Uh
Have you ever watched the Grammys once ever?
no. But
Okay.
I saw some of the like highlights about people who won and shit like that.
Yeah, why is Kanye always pulling stunts?
I don't know. He showed up with that lady he's dating who basically showed up naked
What,
to the
did
awards.
they kick her out?
Apparently the two of them were asked to leave or something, because I guess neither one of them was ever even supposed to attend.
Oh,
And what I had read is that he basically
wow.
just like pulled up to the red carpet and every, like, you know, all the cameras and paparazzi just saw him and this naked woman he was with and like started taking their pictures and whatever as if they were supposed to be there. But I guess they were kind of told like, you're not invited kind of thing. Like you need to get the fuck
Yeah.
out. That's what I had seen. I could be fucking wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So he didn't win any Grammys. She was originally wearing a coat, but then they walked onto the red carpet and then she just dropped her coat.
That would make more sense, I suppose.
Yeah. And that people were in shock.
Mm-hmm. I guess that seems to be the consensus. That it was
Yeah,
like, why is he here with this naked lady?
I'm just skimming through this Washington Post article. Who's SO? It's they posted, oh, Shane O'Neill. Do you know who Shane O'Neill is?
I do not. I am unfamiliar.
Shane O'Neill says this whole situation is tempered by the fact that signs point to Kanye being unwell.
Right.
How long is he going to be like? I just feel like he's
Unwell.
just been in this spiral. I don't know.
Well, I think it's because if I had to venture a guess, knowing nothing about the situation, refuses to sort of like get help.
I don't, dude. I don't really know that because apparently he was on medication,
Right.
right? He was on neuroleptics, antipsychotics, but the side effects of antipsychotics are abysmal. Like they have a really high attrition rate, like of people like stopping taking the medication kind of thing.
Right.
So I don't really necessarily
Maybe
blame
it's
him.
something like that. I don't know. If for all we know, it's some fucking 4D chess move of just, you know, any publicity is good publicity, and he just doesn't give a fuck. And it's like, I'm just gonna do all this wild shit for like the attention and money and whatever. Because like, what do I fucking care? Like, for all we know, it's
Maybe.
some ridiculous shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw a video of him describing one of his. Was it? Does it look weird when I'm looking at my screen here?
No, I understand. If anybody's wondering, Patrick's monitor, or you said you broke your laptop screen,
Yeah, it's been broken since September.
so you're using a separate monitor, which is what I'm on, which is why it
It's
makes more
hooked up
sense
to.
to you to look at me on the monitor
Well, I
than it
have
does.
I actually have you in front of me right now, and I
Oh,
have the other tabs open on
oh,
my
okay. Well, then there you go.
left.
Then it all works out okay.
It works out decently well. But what was I gonna say? I was gonna say I saw a video of him describing one of his manic episodes.
Hmm.
Okay, this is gonna sound really weird.
Right.
Okay, but manic episodes are basically periods of like heightened mood. People are often really invested in goals, so they have an increase in goal directed behavior. Sometimes they are doing more risky behaviors, lots of energy, and it's like a really noticeable shift. They don't need as much sleep. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so um, mania is associated with a disorder called bipolar disorder. And, often, so not really often. I guess the most current data I saw was like around 37% of people who have bipolar 1, which is when you have like those manic episodes, also have depressive symptoms.
Hmm.
I guess what I'm trying to say is these manic episodes are not ideal. Like they're not. It's a problem, so to
Yes.
speak, because like you engage in more risky behaviors. Often people like find themselves going on shopping sprees and spending a whole bunch of money without even realizing it, or they get themselves in trouble with the law or whatever it is. But there's people who say that there are a lot of like artistic geniuses and like successful people who probably had bipolar disorder.
Mm.
Um, and part of me is like, it's obviously anything is like a two-sided coin. Like, yes, it can be bad, but like there are cases where maybe it can be good. And so part of me, this is gonna sound so bad to say. I'm not gonna say it. I wonder what it's like. I wonder what it's like. That's what I wanted to say. Like it's like you hear about like yes the bad cases, but then you hear about like the good cases. I was even reading a book about this psychologist who has bipolar disorder, and she talks about how when she's in her manic state, she gets like 10 publications done or something crazy. Like she gets so much work done or whatever. But then obviously the flip side of that is she also had depression too. So she had like high highs and like low lows.
Right.
But yeah, yeah. I don't know. I wonder. I wonder what it would be like to be in a state like that. Like for
I'm
yourself, imagine yourself like pumping out like 10 manuscripts of like books or something
right.
and getting a bunch of editing done or I don't know.
I
You know what I'm
wonder.
trying to
Good
say?
Kanye West song. How punny of you. Um.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, I don't know. I get what you're saying, where it's like there's obviously people who like, well, even the people, if it's like quote unquote good, I think there's still an argument to be made that it's like they need help. But
Yes, yes.
there is
Like
something,
there are good fruits that came out of
yeah,
it,
like there is a
so to speak.
commonality between, like, not always, but like there are, let's say, famous or popular or like incredibly talented artists across many different fields that are
Mm-hmm.
also like, you know, not well or stable kind of thing.
Mm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
clearly with like, you look at like every musician that's ever like overdosed, or a Kurt Cobain who killed himself, like, and all this shit. But then it's like you look at the shit they made and it's like, man, like you made all this incredible stuff, but like you were so
Not
I mean,
okay.
even Robin Williams, Jesus Christ, like
Yeah.
all the shit that he did, and like way longer of a career than some other people have, and yet, you know, that's the end result kind of thing. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to like, and I know you're not, but I don't want to like glorify that, because I think there are definitely some people
Yeah.
that do that, like almost glorify the like the fucked up artist, or like, the artist who's like not all there or whatever, but like makes great shit. Like I don't want to glorify that, because I don't think it's a good thing, or like you don't want
Mm-hmm.
to encourage that, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think Kanye
Yeah.
is a pretty good proof case as to why
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
would be a
Yeah.
bad
And
thing. But I get the like point you're saying though, of like, what does that for as much as that takes away, like what does it add, or like how does it add, or why? Like
Yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
something there.
I almost wonder because obviously, yeah, like what you said is exactly right. We don't want to glamorize it or, you know, especially like me being in the field that I am, like it's not something that I want to glamorize, but it's definitely a phenomena that is intriguing to me, and I almost wonder. I want to understand what it's like being in that state, and if it's even possible. This is a crazy thing. Is it possible to harness a state like that? You know what I mean? Is it possible to get yourself into a state like that and then out?
Maybe, but I don't know if that's like worth the risk almost. I feel like a better
Mm-hmm.
analog would be like the drug thing, where like there are people outside of, and then also artists that like were either known to or open about the fact that like, oh, I like did whatever drug, like, and that helped with the art or blah. And it's like that's also something you don't want to encourage, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the. Sorry, I'm just looking at this poster on my wall that was not straight and I had to fix it. But like it depends on what it is. Like if you hear comedians being like, "Oh, when I like smoke a bunch of weed, like that's when I'm productive and write a lot." It's like I think there's more something to that that's worth looking into, or more from like a psychoactive, like I don't know, fucking shrooms, or like one of these things, like a hallucinogen maybe, that like you can do in a more controlled,
Mm-hmm.
less harmful way. Because if somebody's like, yeah, I make the greatest movies ever when I'm like on black tar heroin, it's like, well, don't fucking do that. Like that to me is what I'm saying about the like mental angle, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
could you get into that and maybe come out of it? Maybe, but it's not worth it
Mm-hmm.
because of how destructive it could be. Whereas like if you're doing just,
Well, it's not something you
weed or
can get
whatever,
into.
well, also that
Like our
too.
current understanding is that it's just
It is what it
we
is.
don't know why it happens. Like it's just something that
Yeah, but you
happens, you
can't like
know?
flip it off and on like a switch. But that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying, where it's like the
exactly.
weed thing, for example, is to me where like that's a thing that's more like, okay, maybe there's something to explore in that, or maybe there's something to explore in like a, hallucinogen or whatever the fuck kind of realm. But it's like you don't necessarily want to go dipping a toe into the heavier stuff, even though it
Yeah.
is, there's clearly some sort of thing there, and it's definitely interesting, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not replicable, nor should it really be, you
Yeah.
know.
You know, um, because you brought up marijuana
Mm,
a couple of sentences ago. It's actually a risk factor for schizophrenia. So
sure. There you go.
something I want you to know.
Don't
Something I want the 30 people who are going to listen to this
don't.
know.
We're gonna turn this into a dare episode. Don't do drugs, kids.
don't don't do drugs, kids.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
In moderation, do whatever you want. I
Yeah.
don't care. Fuck you. Ah. But yeah, was that all you had from the Grammys? Just Kanye West?
Yeah, I mean, I
On
don't
that.
think so. Here, let me be completely honest with you. So
Mm,
I searched up Grammys controversy
hmm.
with the expectation that I would see something about
Beyonce.
Beyonce.
Hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, no, nothing. Not even one news article
Mm.
on Beyonce. Kanye stole the show, and quite frankly, I guess yeah, there was no controversy surrounding Beyonce. Maybe it's something online of people just talking about it here and there, but it's not. It wasn't big enough to reach like outlets
What did I tell you, Mark?
to people.
What did I tell you?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. But I want to listen to the Beyonce album. I
Right.
really do. I heard a couple of the songs on it, and they don't sound like country songs.
I think it's like a blend of like, from what I've heard, it's, as far as I can tell, it's just a blend of like more like the music she regularly makes,
Okay.
like mixed with country
I,
music stuff.
okay. I feel like it's a bit of a slap in the face to country fans to give her the country album of the year
That to me, I mean, full stop.
because she
Just
won both.
getting ahead of this, I could really care less,
Uh-huh.
genuinely. But
Yeah.
for the sake of the conversation, that to me was the weird one where like even when Mark's whole point was like, oh, there's like controversy that she won album of the year, which I don't think there is, but it's like that to me is whatever and makes a certain amount of sense. The country album of the year is the weird thing because it's like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that to me would be like if you gave the best like if you gave rock album of the year to like, you know, if the contenders for rock album of the year, let's say, was like, you know, Van Halen, Boston, AC/DC, you know, the Eagles, and then the fifth option was like fucking one of these like alt rock things or like even like a punk rock thing, like a, you know, or like a rap rock thing, like a 311 or a Rage Against the Machine, and like you gave it to one of those, it's like, well, it's not like it is rock and roll, I guess. And this album, I guess it is country, but it's like, I don't know. That to me, again, not giving a shit strikes me as weirder than her winning album of the year. Like it
Yeah,
seems
yeah. It
more
just
weird to
seems.
me that it's like you gave her country album of the year.
Well, there are big names like Zach Bryan released an album this year. Luke Combs, who's another big country artist,
Maybe
released.
is there like I don't know, but would there be like a counter argument that like maybe none of those albums were very good that she was up against in that
Maybe,
category?
maybe I. My understanding was that the Zach Bryan one was good though. I again, I want to preface this by saying I didn't listen to it, but friends of mine who like Zach Bryan said it was
Do
good.
you know what his new album is called?
The Great American Bar Scene.
Uh,
The Great American Bar Scene.
I am Googling this just because I'm
Yeah. You want to
curious.
Metacritic it?
Great American
And then do
Pharmacy.
me a favor, Metacritic something else after for me.
Sorry, I'm looking. Give me a second. Everybody
Yeah,
fill in
no, take
time
your time.
here. And
Take
by
your time.
everybody, I mean you. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I was trying to Google it, but let's just go to Metacritic instead. Ba ba bow.
Do you want me to read you the name again?
I copied it, so I should have it here.
Okay.
Ding 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 ding. Ding. Can you show me fucking? Oh my god, Metacritic, you're so useless sometimes. This is why I use OpenCritic for game stuff because I think it's way better. Let's see. Wikipedia. Surely Wikipedia's got me. Critical reception. Received a 73 out of 100. And I forget what
From who?
the just on Metacritic. So like
Oh,
compiled of all these things. And what was the Beyonce album? Cowboy Carter.
Cowboy Carter.
Just
I
out
want
of
you to search something else.
curiosity, Cowboy Carter. Because I know I just. Oh, didn't I just read this the other day and say it
You
had like
did
a 91 or something?
something like that.
So maybe like I guess I don't know. Maybe there's a
Wait,
counter.
search one more thing up.
Oh,
Search one
oh,
more thing up.
oh! I'm
Where
searching.
I've been isn't where I'm going.
Where I've been isn't where I'm going. Shabuzi. Da, 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 da. Critical reception. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, give me like, can you give me a score or something? It doesn't, it's not giving me like a Metacritic thing here on Wikipedia, but all music, 4 out of 5. Holter, Hotter, 9 out of 10. Pitchfork, 7.7 out of 10.
Okay, and then search up Fathers and Sons,
Are
Luke
these all
Combs.
the albums?
No, no, this will be the last one we search up. Fathers and Sons, Luke Combs.
Fathers and Sons by
You
Luke
know who I haven't. You know
Combs.
who I haven't asked. I don't think Merrick gives two shits either, but I wouldn't because he's more of a country enthusiast than I am. I wouldn't call myself a country enthusiast, so he's a country enthusiast, which I'm not. Um, I never asked him about how he feels about Beyonce winning.
This
Uh,
Wikipedia only lifts Riff Magazine gave the Luke Combs thing an 8 out of 10, but
here's
it
the thing
also doesn't
about
have like a
here's the
Metacritic
thing about
thing.
like these are like country singers. You know what I mean? So it
Yes.
doesn't surprise me that looking at the critical side of things, they don't have as much as Beyonce because everyone's going to look at Beyonce. Not everyone's going to look at these guys. So that doesn't really surprise me.
Sure. Like, yeah,
Um,
I don't know. Like I said, couldn't care less. But it does strike me as a little odd to be like, hey, this person who's not a country musician, that doesn't mean people can't like dip their toes into different things. But
yeah,
it's like
but
somebody
it
who's
yeah,
traditionally not in this world coming into it and making an album that's like, as far as I
not
can
even
tell, a fusion of things, winning it
if she leaned
strikes
more
me as a
into
little
it.
weird.
If she leaned more into it, then it would have made a little more sense to me. But
Yeah,
it seems like it seemed like it was like 80-20.
it's kind of
You know what I'm
like if
saying?
there was a category, maybe there is, I don't fucking know anything about the Grammys, but like if there was a category for like old music or like, I don't even know what you would call it, but like Sinatra-esque, Dean
Big
Martin,
band.
whatever, that type of
Yeah.
music.
Okay.
If Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett, and even I think Lady Gaga might have even done an album like that that's not even with Tony Bennett, but like if they had won that,
Okay.
that to me would make more sense because like, oh yes, Lady Gaga normally does like pop music, but this album that they did together, Cheek to Cheek or whatever it's called, is
Yeah.
straight up Sinatra, Dean Martin, whatever, like that
Yeah.
genre of
Well,
music. Like
Tony
it's not like,
Bennett also does that kind of
well,
music,
yeah,
right?
and it's him
Yeah.
too, obviously, so it makes a certain amount of sense, but it's not like a
Yeah.
blend, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that to me
Yeah.
is the thing with the Beyonce thing. Whereas if she just like full sent it of like this is a straight up country album instead of
Hmm.
like sort of a fusion thing, and she won it,
And I don't think there's anything wrong with a fusion to win it, but
no,
it's a fusion that is heavily in favor of her own style. Like it's a fusion that doesn't really, based on what I've heard so far, doesn't embrace the countryside that all that much.
right. I would
Again,
wonder.
maybe I'll circle back after I've listened to more of it and change my mind. But that's currently where I stand.
I'm curious to see because I could be dreaming, but I thought I had read somewhere that when her album came out, it was finding particular success in like the same kind of demographics and markets
Mm.
that listen to
That's
country music.
okay.
So I
Oh, okay.
wonder if
Interesting.
like again, it's kind of like what I was saying when we were talking with Mark about the like controversy of her winning album of the year. I
Yeah.
wonder if there is a similar thing where like maybe it did connect with like
Yeah.
people who like country music as much as some of these other popular country people, and like to most people it was kind of like, oh cool, like the sort of different
Yeah.
country thing won, like maybe there's something there too, kind of thing. I don't fucking know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. But yeah, I guess that's it for the. Nothing really else to talk about with regards to the Grammys, to be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah.
The little pregnant pause there. Is everybody, I hope you're fucking checking your headphones out there, everybody, making sure that shit still works. I like a good pregnant pause every once in a while. I think it's a fun bit. um well, there you go. Was there anything else you had on the brain?
Mm,
Because I kind of have one more thing, and then we can get out of here. We've been going for a little bit now. I don't have to make this an
oh,
all-day production.
how long have we
I
been
still
going
gotta
for?
edit this shit. I think we started like in and around 7, and it's 7:40 now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Let's hear what you wanted to bring up. Let's hear it.
Well, I was just because we were talking before the show about how I recently, over the past couple weeks, have made a pair of YouTube videos,
Mm-hmm.
specifically talking about Vigima games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess I wanted to start there, but open it to a slightly broader conversation about like creating shit and not
Okay.
necessarily like content creation per se. But yeah, I don't know. I have long held the belief that I could make.
What's your YouTube channel, Maddie?
I have dubbed it Mega Matty,
Ah.
all one word, and I've made an icon for myself, which is an logo using the same logo style of Mega Man, the games. At some point I got to get like a little banner
Why am
made.
I subscribed to this already? What the heck?
Well, because it's my personal YouTube channel.
Oh.
Like it was my Matthew Urso YouTube channel that I was just dumping a bunch of nonsense on, but I've made all that private or unlisted, and the only two videos up on it now are this because I don't know. Like I say in the bio of this channel, I'm just gonna make some stuff and we'll see what happens. Because I don't know. Like I've just kind of been compelled
That's funny.
lately to just, like I was saying, I've always long held the belief that I think I could make YouTube videos in the style of some shit I like. Um, maybe not as well, but like at least do a decent enough job of doing it and like have a good time doing it. And I do. Like these two videos that I did, I had a good time making. Both of them were like day projects for me where I just like started filming in the afternoon, wrapped up, a couple hours later, and then spent the next few hours just editing it all together.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I have liked doing it. I'm not about to fucking quit my day job and try becoming like a full-blown YouTuber or anything, but I'm kind of at a point now where I just want to sort of take some swings at different things and see what happens. Because I've talked about this with you the other day or whatever, somewhat recently, of the idea of like the whole become an editor and like get into the biz thing so far hasn't really been working out too well. And I'm kind of getting to the point where it's like I feel like I may need to pivot into something else and something a little bit more of a like surefire bet, a la teaching, perhaps. But because I'm at that point where I'm not really getting any hits, like I'm kind of just like, well, if I'm not gonna do this professionally, I guess, like I'm still at the very least interested in doing it as a hobby, whether that's doing this or like making these pair of videos that I've made. And like I have a third one that I've been like collecting footage and like jotting down notes and shit and whatever of like what I'd like to maybe talk about. I think if I do this next one, it will also be video game centric. But then past that, I'd like to try just doing other topics and whatever and just kind of see what happens. I like would like to maybe even try shooting, like calling them short films feels very generous, but like just making some things, whether it's like a little dumb skit or like I kind of have this idea of making like this quick, even if it's like a 2-minute like little horror short or something, but like I don't know. I have long since, considering I went to film school for it, felt this passion for and desire and like want to create and make shit. And the hope was that I would sort of be able to do that professionally and personally. And so far, the professional part hasn't really been coming together. But I'm trying to not let that deter me from the personal side of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Well, how much do you think you would like doing the professional?
I mean, quite a bit. Like that's always been the goal. Is like I just want to be like an editor, or if the comic thing is also something that I haven't put nearly as much time into recently as I would like. But like that's another thing where it's like, or if I could just be a writer, like professionally, like I would do that too. Like that's what I would like to do. I just don't know if it's going to quite come together. And part of that is definitely on me. Like talk about, I like to think I don't have a ton of regrets in life. But part of this not quite coming together, I think, is absolutely my own doing.
In what
And
way?
like just in the speed
Speed?
with which, there it is, that's how English works, that I am like trying to do this. Like the fact that I'm now in a few months going to be 3 years out of film school and graduating, but I've only seriously been looking for work in that field since last September. Like the fact that I kind of just got comfortable and sat around on my ass for a couple of years figuring like, yeah, it'll be fine if I do it later. Like, part of it was I'll be fine if I do it later, and part of it is my own like anxieties and fears about change and fucking growing up and becoming a goddamn functioning adult. So it all kind of goes together in one big mess. But
How are other people in your class doing? Like, what are they doing? What are they up to? Do you
it's
know?
sort of a mixed bag. Like, I definitely know some people that are like in, or like at least tangentially in to what they kind of wanted to do, or like shit like that. I mean, even Varsh is like, has had all these experiences in professional work doing film and TV stuff. So it's like, there are definitely people I know that are in. There are definitely people I know that like are kind of in a similar spot where they either haven't looked, or like they have been trying to break in, but like haven't been able to, which I guess creative industries, it's tough to get into. It's competitive. Like, I get, not everybody's going to make it kind of thing. Thought I heard a door opening and I thought it was mine. But so yeah, I don't know. Like I said, so even though it's not quite coming together yet, maybe that'll change, who fucking knows, in the way I would perhaps like. I figure at the very least I'm going to just sort of continue to do it personally, A, for the fulfillment of doing it, and B, because I figure, well, it can't hurt to have a YouTube channel with like videos on there that I can, like something I've been meaning to do since I put these two up is like on my website that I have, like add a link and like a part of my website that is like, and hey, like I've been making YouTube videos and whatever, like just to maybe point people to it as well. So maybe it's like, whether it's more of like a professional thing that like maybe stumbles across it and it's like, oh, this guy can edit or whatever, or if it is like, a YouTube channel, for example, that's looking for like an editor and stumbles across my shit and it's like, oh, this guy can fucking, throw a video together kind of thing. So
He'll do.
Yeah, he'll do. So yeah, I don't know. I just want to make stuff. And so I've tried to finally dip a toe in with these few YouTube videos. For the longest time, I think what deterred me from doing it was the idea of like, well, I am busy and like I can't dedicate all kinds of time to this, so I can't do it like on a frequent schedule that I would like, And I had been very militant in the sense, even with this show and the fact that we've already missed a couple weeks recently after going like 92 or 3 or whatever weeks it was without missing a single Saturday, like drives me nuts. I've always been kind of tied to the idea that, and because even like I've heard YouTube people and podcast people talk about this where it's like, oh, consistency is really important. And like, if you tell people you're going to be uploading every Saturday, then you better be uploading every Saturday kind of thing. But then like channels that I'm a fan of that aren't doing podcasts and shit, but are just doing these kind of one-off videos and video essays that I am trying to kind of do, like have no set schedule at all, but are like very successful because people just, the audience that is there and has been ingrained with this person and their content, like will come back to it kind of thing. And like the consistency or lack thereof doesn't seem to be as integral as I otherwise thought it would have. I think for a podcast and a video, it's different. Like I still think a podcast, it is more crucial that you're consistent. But, then you have fucking Joe Rogan who uploads whenever he wants and it's the biggest podcast on earth. So even that, it's like, the fuck do I know?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
But yeah, I don't know. Anyways, this got like way more introspective and into the weeds than I thought it would. But the reason I just brought that up was just to talk about like,
we can get more introspective if you want.
Oh boy. Well, I was just gonna say, I brought it up more to say like, hey, I've made a couple of these things. By the way, I guess subscribe to the Mega Matty channel. But like I've made a couple things. I like doing it. I'd like to keep continuing to do it in some capacity, however frequent or infrequent. But I was also just going to bring it up, like, to you in the sense of, like, do you have that same drive or passion for, like, I want to make shit in any
Mm.
capacity, whether it's like I want to draw or make music or like act in something, or like it doesn't even have to be like arts centric, I guess. Like
Yeah.
it could go, but I'm not talking about like I want to invent the next fucking, you know, drug to cure whatever disease. Like that's not, I am more, I guess, focused like creatively,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
same desire
Yeah.
resides in you at all.
Well, let's keep getting more introspective.
No.
Just reflecting on this past year, I was the guy who was making the social media clips,
Right.
and I did like that. I did like it, and there were moments where I tried to do different stuff and try to learn to make clips in different ways, whether it was like messing around with sounds or messing around with clips or messing around with, you know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah.
tried different things. Um, but I don't know. I just felt when I reflect on this past year, I just feel like I'm just not good at it, you know?
Mm,
And not that our clips were anything insane, right? Like it's not like it's not like anyone was demanding a lot from me,
right.
but I felt like I should have done better. You know what I mean? But maybe I'm just not good at it.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Because it's one thing. Yes, the expectation is okay. I just make a make a clipped version of what happened on the show. It doesn't need any sound effects. It doesn't need anything at all. And just post that. But like, what am I trying to say?
I think I get what you're getting
I
at, of
feel like
like
I feel like
there's a
social media is
desire
a different
to,
game,
sure.
is what I'm saying.
I thought you were going to get more
So
at the idea of like there's a desire to like, yeah, I could just do this, but like, but what if I did this kind of thing?
well, it's double. It's like, yeah, what if I did this in that like I feel like it makes the video or viewing experience better, but also it is fueled by the idea that social media is a different thing than YouTube.
Sure.
You know, it can be like just like the clip, but like I find that only really works with like famous people, I guess, because like people are naturally just gonna gravitate
Sure.
towards
When you're
that.
an unknown, you do have to
Yeah, when
like
you're an unknown, you have to
shoot
like stand
fireworks out
out.
of your ass a little more
Yeah,
to like
yeah,
draw in people,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah. So like week after week, just like yeah, I don't know. I look back on it and I didn't really acknowledge it in the moment, but it was a thing of like I'm discouraged week after week. You know what I mean? Why are you
Right.
laughing?
Well, I think it's funny that you're discouraged or you're saying that about that because A, I think all the clips you did were like fine at worst to good at best. Like there was nothing where I
Mm-hmm.
was ever like, I never thought like anything was wrong or bad or not well done or anything, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the discouragement came from like the plateau
Mm,
that we just observed.
mm,
You know what I mean? It was just like and that's why I try to do different things sometimes. Like I try to like add in like GIFs. I tried to add in
right,
sound effects sometimes. I made it so that the start of the video was like a beep, and you know what I mean? Like I tried to
right,
think of different things, um, to no avail. You know what I mean? That's why I was discouraged. Like I didn't. There was no tangible like, oh, okay, something is happening here. There's just nothing happening here. You
right.
know what I mean?
Yeah. And I feel like that's just the like tough thing about trying to do this. Not that we're trying, I mean, we said that from the jump that like we weren't trying to do this. And even the YouTube thing, like I'm not trying to do it to become
Mm-hmm.
one of these YouTubers with like 1 million subscribers and like a Patreon and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. It's like, if I could do that, like that's cool, I guess, but that's not like the goal necessarily. For me, it's
Mm-hmm.
more just like the fun of doing it. And that
Mm-hmm.
is the same philosophy that I think we brought into this.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't change that like there is that frustration sometimes of like it feels like no matter what you do or like how hard you try to penetrate it, like it just doesn't, you know, it doesn't work kind of thing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
or it doesn't work as fast, I guess I should say,
yeah, depending on the timeline you
or
look
the
at. Yeah.
plateau kind of happens.
Yeah. So I think that was with regards to like making things. Yeah, the answer is yes. I do have some sort of interest in making things. I don't think I'm particularly good at making
Hmm.
at least videos.
Right.
Um, yeah. Yeah.
So I fucked
Yeah.
up a string on my pants that I'm trying to fix and it's not working. Um,
That's okay.
but so, because it doesn't even have to necessarily be the video thing, like, are there other things that perhaps speak to you, you know? Because for me, it's like videos is the thing that it's like since high school, it's like, oh, I love doing this. And to me, it is the fun thing of like when I'm making things. And like a lot of times there's like ideas that I have ahead of time, but then there's times where it's like in the moment when I'm doing something and like you get that idea of like, oh, I could just do this and it would be good enough, but I could do this. That would be like way cooler. Even these two couple videos that I've made, like not that they were necessarily like these big or complex things, but in the top 10 video games one thing, in the beginning when I'm saying like, oh, like I'm a huge video game person and blah 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 blah, like the idea just came to me to be like for the joke of like, I like video games so much I'm wearing like fucking Pac-Man socks, and then to throw in the joke of or like throw in the shot of my feet in the fucking socks, and then to like have the joke of like, please don't put me on wiki feet, like that comes to my head. Or the other video, the like 2025 games I can't wait to play. One of the
Mm-hmm.
5 games I talk about is the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3. And like I was thinking about like what I was going to say for it and like talk about it like I did with all the other games, but then it's like the idea hits me of like, wait a minute. What if I did, for people who don't know Metal Gear Solid, there's this thing called the codec where like you can call other characters in the game or they'll call you, and it's kind of like a FaceTime, but like there's a very specific way that it looks. And like I had this idea of like, what if to introduce that I'm now going to talk about Metal Gear Solid, I did like a codec call, and I like found somebody had like pre-made like the graphic for it. So I just took that, put in like a picture of Snake, put in a picture of me, and then I like recorded my voice. Then I recorded my voice as Snake, and I even got my mom to do a voice line for it. Because while I was doing it, I had like another joke of like, oh, what if my mom interrupted the call between me and Snake to be like, oh, dinner's ready. And it's the punchline that of me being like, how the fuck did you get on the codec call? But it's like shit like that. So like that's always appealed to me. But even things that I'm not good at all appeal to me. Where it's like I cannot draw or animate at all. And yet like every once in a while, like I maybe dip a toe into that world. Or it's like music. Can't play any instruments. I don't understand like music theory and all that shit fucking at all. But like every couple months, I'll like watch a YouTube video and sit around thinking like how to like sample parts of songs and turn it into like, a hip hop beat or whatever. And it's like there's songs actively that I listen to where I'm like, oh, this would make like a really cool sample if you just sliced it out of, this Radiohead song or whatever, and then added the drums and like all this shit to it, and like you could maybe make something cool out of that. It's like I don't know how to fucking do any of that. I've kind of dipped a toe in, but I am not good at it or geared to do it even remotely. Um, but I feel the desire, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's what I'm wondering as we segue towards the end of the show here. Like if there's that desire in you, even if it's things that you aren't geared towards or like good at kind of thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
you might not be able to draw or paint, but like do you have any interest in like making a really nice painting would be an
Yeah.
example.
No. No.
No.
I don't. I don't. I don't. I'll be honest. No. Yeah. I guess if I'm not good at something, I don't really want. I don't really have interest in doing it.
Right. Which
Yeah.
is
But that's not true
understandable.
for everything. Like I play COD almost. I play COD quite often, and I'm really bad at that.
Right.
So I guess what I just said is not it's not a rule in my life, but yeah, I've never been so creatively inclined.
I guess it almost stems from like a
I
curiosity
wish.
for me.
Here's what I wish I could do. I
Right.
wish I could make music.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing where it's like
Yeah,
I wish I could pull this off.
but I don't sit down and even attempt to make music.
Right.
You know what I mean? I could maybe sit down and I just don't. I don't know. I guess maybe I've never tried. I could
Right.
try.
Sit around with your guitar and
Just put a few chords. It doesn't even need to be anything crazy. It could just be like, just think of the 4 chords I want
or
in
even
a
like
verse.
from like a lyrical perspective. Like have
And
you ever
then
even
that's the thing.
thought
It would
about
have to,
like writing a song, even if it's as simple as just like a
yeah,
love song? Like
yeah. Oh God, we could try. We'll try. We
cuz
can
like
try.
I have
We'll air it. We'll air
somewhere.
it here for the first time.
Yeah, great. I have somewhere on my Google Drive. Uh-oh, I'm getting a phone call real quick. Hold on a second. Everybody give me 2 seconds. I'm going to
Good, but
Sorry, that was a coworker of mine calling me to ask something. We'll see if I cut all
okay.
that out. Probably. Let me make a note. Cut out call. About an hour in. Anyways, yeah, like that's the thing where I have somewhere buried on my Google Drive lyrics that I wrote for a song just to like again, it was just
Really?
it was just
Let me read
it
them.
was probably like 2 a.m. one night,
Let me read
and
them.
I just like was struck by it and like couldn't sleep probably and was like, "Oh,
Why
let
don't
me
you want
just
me to read
try."
it?
I can send it to you after. But
Send it
like
to me.
it was probably a thing that it just like occurred to me and I like
Actually, don't send it to me.
okay.
Because if I'm actually gonna try my hand at this, I don't want to be biased by anything.
Okay. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I just cuz I
And
remember
then
like
we could play your song and then play my song.
great. I remember like thinking about it and being like, "Oh, like and paying attention to like the syllables and like how many
Mm-hmm.
syllables like are in each line and making it rhyme and all that shit." Like
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I don't know. It's just I feel like it stems from because this is what I was gonna say, and then we can get out of this. I apologize. This tangent of mine went a little longer than I thought. But for me, it's almost interesting to talk to people who like aren't interested. Like I think I would consider you on the border, you know? Like tangentially kind of interested in some things.
Yeah,
Maybe.
but like mostly not.
Sure. Whereas like people that have like zero interest in making or creating anything at all, I just find interesting because it's such a like not that there's nothing wrong with it, and it's not like a judgment in by any means, but it's
Sounds
more
like
just
you're
like a
judging really
no, I
harshly.
swear. It's more of just like that's such a like alien thing to me to like not want to like I guess it stems from the idea of like and I would assume a lot of artists would feel a similar thing to this, but like the idea of like wanting to like say something or
Mm-hmm.
like get a thought or an opinion out there through something. And it's not always like I have, comic book ideas or like ideas for like a movie or whatever that like there isn't some like deeper meaning or like I'm trying to get across some complex theme. It's just like, nah, this is fucking dope. Like sometimes it's just as simple as that. But like there are other things where it's like, oh, like this is something I would want to like say or talk about or like get a message across kind of thing. And like expressing that through something creative is like the draw, I guess, of that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Making shit.
Making shit.
Making shit. But anyways, well, if there's nothing else you've got.
There's stuff I could bring up, but we can just save it for another day.
Wow. Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say to the people before we get out of here?
Hello again
Wow.
to anyone viewing and
Mm.
who hasn't seen my face in a while.
Mm.
Hello again. Um, keep on living, baby.
Mm-hmm. Keep on living. If you weren't, you better start, or Patrick
If
will
you
come for
weren't, you
you.
better start.
Patrick
Yeah.
will find you. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This has been yet another episode of Wildly Adequate. Remember, please like, share, subscribe, comment, do all the things. But only nice comments and likes, no dislikes and mean comments. Or again, Patrick will find you.
Honestly, I want to feel something, so yeah, just let's take the negative comments
Okay,
too.
send your hate mail to Patrick because he wants to feel
Oh,
something.
no, on the channel, on the
Apparently,
channel.
even bad emotions.
On the channel, on the channel.
Oh, okay. I guess whatever. But anyways, that's it, everybody. Thank you very much. We'll see you around. Goodbye.